What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 4. Sleepers and studs.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to give you a sleeper pick and my favorite stud at each position.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, NFL Week 4. Let's take a look at the quarterback position. So yeah, you got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, some of the top studs on the slate, but this guy is much lower ownership than those guys, and he's been performing pretty darn well this season, and he's got a good matchup, so I like Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks playing the San Francisco 49ers, who have the 12th worst defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Russell Wilson has averaged 23.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.7 rush attempts per game. He's projected at 20.6 fantasy points here in Week 4. He's 7,100 DraftKings salary and 600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 52 points scored in this game, with the Seahawks trailing by 3. So he had a subpar game last week, only scored 17 fantasy points, but he scored 26 and 27 fantasy points in Week 1 and 2, so he's doing pretty well, and he's only going to be about 2% owned. So if you want to come down off of a guy like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, who are going to be 12 and 10% owned, save a little bit of salary and get a guy that's got just as big of a ceiling as those guys in a good matchup, in a high-scoring game, in what could be a passing game script. I like Russell Wilson here versus the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, my sleeper pick at the quarterback position, and this is just based on ownership alone, I like Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing quarterbacks. Now, Aaron Rodgers has only averaged 16.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 1.3 rush attempts per game, but that average, it's low, mostly because his Week 1 performance, he only put up 3 fantasy points, but he put up 27 fantasy points in Week 2 and 19 fantasy points in Week 3, so don't count Aaron Rodgers out, and it looks like a lot of people are doing just that because he's only going to be about 1% owned. Projected at 20 fantasy points here in Week 4, he's 6,800 DraftKings salary and 800 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 45.5 points scored in this game, with the Green Bay Packers favored by 6.5. Now, although I did say to sit Ben Roethlisberger in my starts and sits videos, I think you should sit him if you have a better option at quarterback, but I'm getting this gut feeling that Ben Roethlisberger is going to make this a competitive game and force Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball and score those touchdowns. I don't think they're going to run the Steelers over here, so I like Aaron Rodgers here versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. I like Alvin Kamara from the New Orleans Saints playing the New York Giants, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Alvin Kamara has averaged 15.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 17.3 rush attempts per game and 4.7 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 80% of the snaps. Now he's going to be about 18% owned, and he's projected at 20.9 fantasy points here in week 4. He's 8,400 DraftKings salary, 600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game, with the New Orleans Saints favored by 7.5. So this is a good matchup, and this could turn into a running game script. He got 24 rush attempts last game, 4 pass targets. He could get 20 plus rush attempts again here versus the Giants, especially if the Saints take the lead in this one. So I like Alvin Kamara here versus the New York Giants. Okay, now here's a high-risk, high-reward sleeper pick. Take a look at Nyheim Hines from the Indianapolis Colts playing the Miami Dolphins, who have the 10th worst defense overall, and they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Nyheim Hines has averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.3 rush attempts per game, but he's getting 5.3 pass targets per game as well. So 10 to 11 touches per game. He got 12 touches last game, and he's only on the field for 46% of the snaps, but when he is on the field, he's touching the ball 34% of the time. He's only going to be about 2% owned, projected at 11.8 fantasy points here in week 4. He's 4,900 DraftKings salary and 400 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Colts trailing by 1.5. So Nyheim Hines, last year, he was that guy that just was a surprise week after week, putting up big fantasy points on low volume, and here he is again doing the same thing this year. And if he can get 10 to 15 touches, like 6 rush attempts and 6 pass targets, that's perfect. He scored 19 fantasy points last week. You're getting him at low salary, low ownership, and a fantastic matchup. So I like Nyheim Hines as a high-risk, high-reward play here versus the Miami Dolphins. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So you got your studs Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, but the guy I like a lot this week is Terry McLaurin from the Washington football team playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Terry McLaurin has averaged 17 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 8.3 pass targets per game. And I like this pick because he's been on the field for 99% of the snaps. He's going to be about 13% owned, projected at 16.9 fantasy points here in week 4. He's 6,900 DraftKings salary and only 200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 48 points scored in this game, with the Washington football team favored by 1.5. So you got a close, competitive game and a good matchup. So I like Terry McLaurin here versus the Atlanta Falcons.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, my sleeper pick at the wide receiver position is Tim Patrick from the Denver Broncos playing the Baltimore Ravens, who have the 8th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing wide receivers. Tim Patrick has averaged 13.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.3 pass targets per game. So I'd like to see him get a couple more pass targets, but he's been super productive every single week so far this season, scoring 15, 13, and 14 fantasy points throughout the first 3 weeks. He got 5 pass targets last week. He's on the field for 73% of the snaps. He's going to be about 3% owned, projected at 12.4 fantasy points here in week 4. He's $4,900 DraftKings salary, $1,200 more on FanDuel, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, with the Broncos favored by 1. So I like Tim Patrick here versus the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. So my tight end stud, I like Travis Kelce. Who doesn't like Travis Kelce, right? He's averaging 20.7 fantasy points per game on the season. Yeah, from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the 8th worst, who give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Travis Kelce has averaged 24.3 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 8.7 pass targets per game, and he's on the field for 86% of the snaps. He's going to be about 10% owned, projected at 20.7 fantasy points here in week 4. Take a look at his game log. Says everything you need to know about this guy. He scored 20, 27, and 26 fantasy points in his first 3 games of the season off of 11, 8, and 7 pass targets. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 54.5 points scored in this game, with the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 7. So a super high scoring game, a good matchup. This guy's a stud, so I like Travis Kelce here versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason I gave Kelce as my stud is because there's not really much else in terms of studs this week when it comes to good plays. So if you're going to pay up at the tight end position, you're going to want to pay up for Travis Kelce. Now, if you want to save some salary at the tight end position, you got guys like Kyle Pitts, Logan Thomas, Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant. But the guy that I really like this week, and actually I was on this guy last week. I picked him in my, Thursday night football or Monday night football video. And I think I like him as a sleeper pick again here in week 4. I like Zach Ertz from the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who have the 3rd worst defense overall. They give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. And Zach Ertz, he's averaging 7.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.7 pass targets per game. Now, most of those numbers came last week, where he scored 15 fantasy points off of 7 pass targets. He's on the field for 58% of the snaps, only going to be about 2% owned. And I like this pick because he's only $3,500 DraftKings salary, $1,200 more on FanDuel. He's projected at 8.4 fantasy points here in week 4. And we know Vegas thinks this is going to be a high scoring game. 54.5 points scored in this game, with the Eagles trailing by 7. So you got a high scoring game in a game that's going to be a passing game script for the Eagles. So Zach Ertz could get 5 to 10 targets in this game at only $3,500. You know, maybe last week was one of those breakout weeks for him where he's going to start performing like he did before. He's been pretty awful for a long time, but he showed a little bit of hope and a little bit of promise last week. And I think that might carry over into this game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, where he should get a bunch of pass targets. So I like Zach Ertz here versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video, or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.